G'day everyone and welcome. So if you've noticed that the coffee coming out of your coffee machine is warm or not as hot as you would expect it, this video is for you. So I've got 4 tips for you why this could happen. 3 of those tips apply to every other coffee machine, not just this one. One of them is specific to this model. This is the Breville Barista Express model BES870. So let's start with the obvious. When you make milk-based drinks, so tip number 1 is the milk temperature. As you would expect, milk will comprise the majority of that drink. So lattes, let's say around 80% of that entire cup of coffee is just milk. That's 80% of that temperature is going to be coming from that milk. You want that milk to be hot. If you're only steaming up to 40 or 50 degrees, that coffee is probably going to taste cold. Usually the recommended is 60 degrees. You could go all the way up to 70 degrees if you really want a hot drink. So steam your milk for longer, increase the temperature of your milk. That's going to increase the temperature of your entire drink. Number 2 is warming up the other components of the coffee machine. So when you turn on the machine on this model, it takes a minute to reach temperature. Some other models, 5-10 minutes, some other models, few seconds. On this one, it's about a minute. That's for the boiler actually. It's not for the entire machine. So when you see the buttons light up on this model, that means it's at 93 degrees for the boiler. That's not going to apply to things like your portafilter, your basket and spouts, your cup, very important. This is going to be very important to determine the temperature of your coffee. So if you make a coffee right away, when I turn on the machine now, I've just turned it on. Let's say I've just turned it on and I start grinding the coffee, press it with the tamper and then lock it in, make a coffee. That espresso shot is going to be warm at best because it's now winter in Australia. It's like 10 degrees outside, and even inside the house it's like 15 degrees maybe or 20. This is going to be at 15 degrees. My cup's going to be at 15 degrees. All that coldness is going to transfer into the shot. So even if the coffee coming out is at 80 or 90 degrees Celsius, the shot will be much cooler the moment it touches the cup and the portafilter and the spouts, because they're all metal and the cup is glass, so all that transfer happens pretty quickly. So to alleviate that, you want to warm up the machine. So to warm it up, after turning it on, you can leave it to stay like that for 10 or 20 minutes. I usually recommend around 20 minutes for this model. Leave your cups up here, and that's going to make them warm over time. And your portafilter will be nice and hot by the end of that 20-minute period, because the boiler is just attached right on top to that portafilter and group head, and it's all conducting that heat. If you're in a hurry, what I usually recommend is to run a blank shot, and that's usually my preference. Even on my personal coffee machine, this is the Breville Dual Boiler on the left here. That's got 2 heating components, one for the boiler, one for the group head. So my espresso is pretty hot, but I still run a blank shot just to warm up my cup and just to make sure that all the temperature is even all throughout. So running a blank shot is my tip number 2. So just run some hot water into an empty handle, so no coffee, of course. And all those cold components will be nice and warm, maybe nice and hot if you do this more than once. So instead of my shot warming these up, it's this hot water warming these up, and then when I do the shot, it'll be a hot shot. Sorry, the water's a bit yellow. I haven't cleaned the machine. But yeah, that's how you run a blank shot. Do this once, do this twice, even if you want. If you particularly like hot espressos, that's going to give you certainly a hotter drink. Number 3 is time. So you don't want to leave your coffee sitting out. Okay, this may seem obvious, but a lot of the time, especially on single group coffee machines and in winter conditions, coffee will cool down pretty quickly. So let's say I just finished my shot. I leave this out here. It touches the countertop, which is, let's say, quartz or stone. That's going to cool down my cup. That's going to cool down the shot as well. I go to grab my milk from the fridge. I put it in the milk jug. I turn on the steamer. So this is going to take probably a minute or 2 minutes if you're not prepared that's a minute or 2 minutes of your drink cooling down to the air, to the atmosphere, or even if it's on a metal surface or like a glass or a ceramic surface, that's gonna cool down pretty quickly as well. So think about the timing. You don't want the shot to be sitting out for too long, and it's the same for milk. If you steam the milk first, and you let it sit out for a minute or two while you grind your coffee, you tamp it, and you measure it with the scale. All these will take time if you're not prepared, if you're not doing them, fast enough, obviously. So you want to do this quickly and promptly. For me, I like to start with a shot, so I would run a blank shot, grind my coffee, tamp it. While I'm tamping and grinding, I have a lot of hot water in my cup. That's gonna keep it warm. I'm not gonna remove all the hot water and let the cup cool down as I'm grinding my coffee. So think about the timing. That's my number 3 tip. Grind the coffee, and then when you're ready, do the shot. When that shot is done, do the milk, pour the coffee, enjoy the coffee. If you have time, clean the coffee machine. That's what I would do ideally. But you don't want to spend 5-10 minutes doing the cleaning cycles for the machine while your coffee's sitting out. Okay, that's fairly obvious. So we'll leave it there. The number 4, and this is really specific to this model particularly, is just to increase the thermostat on your machine. A lot of the Breville range has adjustable thermostats. So this one you can access by turning it off, holding the program, pressing power. That's going to give you 5 options. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you don't press anything, the machine will reset and go back to standby mode. So I'm going to turn it off and explain what these mean. So that's the temperature selection. Your machine is by default in the middle. This is the middle selection, which is 93 degrees Celsius. It goes from 91, 2, 3, 94, 95. So this is -1, -2, -1, 0, +1, +2. So imagine this is like a scale or a screen. So that's going to be 91 degrees, 92, 93, 94, 95. So let's say I want it to be as hot as possible. I'm going to press 95. And now my bowl is going to be a couple degrees hotter. A couple degrees doesn't sound like a lot, and really it isn't a lot compared to, coffee cool down period. So if I leave this, let's say I just made a coffee and I leave it out for like 10 seconds, let's say that's half a degree, or maybe a degree. I haven't measured it, but I would assume that coffee cools down pretty quickly, especially if it's just an espresso shot and not a whole cup of like latte or cappuccino. So yeah, this is number 4 because honestly it's my last resort. This tip to change the thermostat is my last resort. On this model, we can change it by like I said, ±2. Other models will allow you to choose exactly how much. So you can, on the dual boiler that I have, it can go from like 85 to like 97 or 98. I personally leave it at the default. And changing the temperature is not really marketed as a way to make your drink hotter per se. It's more for fine-tuning the taste. What does that mean? So temperature will change the way the coffee tastes. So if if you notice that the coffee is too sour, if you increase the temperature to a bit of a hotter water, that's gonna make the coffee taste less sour. Again, if on the other hand, if the coffee is too bitter, by reducing the temperature, you will reduce the bitterness. And some coffees will taste better at different temperatures, etc., etc. It can get very, very niche and tricky if you go deep enough into the rabbit hole. But yeah, essentially that's what Breville recommends, is that this adjustment of the temperature is not really to make the coffee hotter and burn your tongue when you drink it. It's more to just fine tune the taste, and by changing the temperature of the water that hits those coffee grounds. Yeah, so last resort, before adjusting the temperature on my PID or my thermostat on the machine, I would just go through steps 1, 2, and 3. Am I steaming my milk hot enough? The recommended is 60 degrees. If you're only doing 40 or 50 degrees, it's going to taste cold. You can go all the way up to 70 degrees. Just don't overcook it, because after like 65 and 70, the milk loses its texture. Loses its sweetness and taste. You start cooking the milk. Not going to be great for your drink. So yeah, before going to the thermostat, just look at the other things. So other components of the espresso making process: the cup, the portafilter, the basket, the group head. Are those all hot before you start making the coffee? And also look at the timing. are you wasting a lot of time, you know, getting the milk from the fridge, or I don't know, doing the dishes while your coffee machine makes coffee? I don't know. Whatever you do, just try to minimize and optimize your workflow, or minimize the time you spend with the coffee sitting out and cooling down. Hopefully this video has helped. We went a little bit over time. We're at 10 minutes now, but yeah, I think hopefully one of these will help you make better drinks. Hope you enjoy, and thanks for watching.